Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Outfitter Connection podcast. I'm your host, Austin Pressey, and I'm here with my good friend and current mountain partner, Miss Felicia Marie. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Enjoying the night.
Yeah. Came down here to West Texas desert and go mess around in the mountains for a week, couple days.
Yes, sir.
Having fun yet?
Absolutely. Just had a beautiful campsite fire meal. Made some skillet nachos.
Which were phenomenal.
Got camp set up. Um, Cleaned up, organized.
Yeah.
Glassed a little bit.
Yeah. Just doing the thing in the mountains this week. Different than the usual spot for recording.
Yes. Yeah, it's not in an office. It's not online. In person in the mountains and it's a spectacular place to be.
Yeah. So if you guys hear any background noises, I mean, it's hard to tell. It could campfire, if the coyotes sound off, the bugs. It's just it's nice to be out here away from society for a few days. Check out.
Unplug.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier about how we as humans were not meant to sit on a couch and waste away.
Absolutely not. I mean, the muscle mass deteriorates and you got to go out and live life.
Yeah. It's there's nothing quite like these West Texas mountains. Like you can go other places and see mountains, and people are going to comment, "Oh, these aren't y'all aren't in real mountains. You guys are in plateaus and mesas." But
Hike them.
hike them. Come out here and put your Lamborghinis on and give it a whirl.
You know, it's funny you say that though, because before experiencing these mountains, I had no idea how rough and rugged that terrain is. I had no idea how defeating it could be, and the resilience that you need to be able to push forward through mountains like these, because going out west is, you know, one set of mountains out towards the Rockies. You go out down towards Tennessee and you get down into the Smokies, and that's a different set of mountains. And then out here, it's like a whole new world, and it's a whole new ball game. I don't know that I could say it enough that this place is absolutely spectacular, but it is challenging on so many levels. It tests you at at every step, every turn, and to me it's exciting. I'm always that person that I say that I really enjoy the suffering of the hunt. That it doesn't matter to actually harvest anything. That I really enjoy getting out there, and getting in there, and just the hike, the experience. That's what makes it worth it to me.
Absolutely. And this is your second trip out here, although you've kind of lived vicariously through me because I constantly send you pictures of this place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to Texas all the time. This is my fifth time this year being a Michigander. Pack up and come down as much as possible, but these mountains are they're one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah. Your first trip out here, you brought a group of women from your group that you started, your organization that you started, Women of the Wild, and we had a lot of fun. It was challenging, but it showed the girls that they are capable in every facet.
Yeah, our company, Women of the Wild, its main hub base is obviously Michigan because that's where I'm from, but we like to do events all over the place. So last year, actually this same time, I packed up 3 girls from Michigan, came down, and we were just talking about this earlier when I started the fire, that there's this unspoken thing that happens with women, right? Like there's, especially out here, so it's a great place for you to test your skills, learn new things. And that's exactly what happened last year. Like we had a girl last year who she'd been camping so many times. She'd done out west. She lives, you know, up in the UP. Shout out Sam, I love you. But she was so excited because we let her start the fire last year. And something that simple that people overlook, and it's not that she never really had the opportunity, like she'd been around a ton of campfires, but there's like this chivalry that men have, that it's like, oh no, let me do it. So she's never had the opportunity until last year, and she started that fire, and she's on like a caveman. She's like, oh, I start fire. And we were so proud of her. But like being out here brings back a lot of that, because I was so proud of those girls, how much they cheer each other on. I mean, Hannah being out here pregnant, shooting her ram at the top of 5. Like, it was just that spectacular experience for these women. They conquered so much in the week that, and we were out here for a full week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they conquered so much. There were so many times where you could see the exhaustion, you could see the want to quit, but they didn't have the will to quit. They had so much of like that I have to keep going and cheerleading each other on, and it was just something that a Michigan girl is never going to experience without coming down here.
You talk about the quitting thing, and it happens a lot in this area. People underestimate. You know, I tell them all the time. You know, it's 4,000 feet to the top. Well, if you're looking at it, 4,000 feet to the top isn't all that bad until you get out here.
Right.
You're camping at 2,800 and you're hiking to 4,000. But it's not like a slow, gradual, there's a clean cut, carved trail to 4,000 feet.
Yeah, you're not getting in a truck and driving to it. This is putting lacing up them boots and hiking in, and it's a tough climb, and it's steep. And every step you take, every piece of ground underneath of you is sliding out from underneath of you. So it's not like it's an easy hike, easy climb like, other mountains that I've personally experienced. It's grueling and it's tasking and it's going to take everything out of you to get to the top, but when you do, it is so rewarding. Like, we did that, what, second day we were out here when we got to the top of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Those girls had so much defeat in their face, but not in their hearts, and we got them to the top, and they got there, and it was like an emotional breakdown of just excitement and the fact that they conquered it, and to look out and see Mexico surrounding you, and it's an incredible experience. And these girls getting that opportunity to do that and see what they got to see and do what they got to do out here, I don't know that anyone could ever understand it without doing it.
Right.
Like, you can see photos, you can see videos, and you don't appreciate it. Like, we were talking about this earlier, driving into the mountains, like remembering them, and like I'm sitting there, naming the mountains and checking their elevations and everything coming in, and you just get this respect for a place like this,
mm-hmm.
that you're not gonna appreciate in a photo. You always hear that saying of like, the photo never does it justice. Absolutely, doesn't even compare.
No, I've probably sent you photos of every square inch of this place, tops, bottoms, sides, and your first trip out here, you're like, this is insane. It's not, like you just said, photos don't do it justice.
No, and I mean, once we got out here, you and I, our feet touched every top of each of these mountains that we got out here. We got into it, and we hiked our asses off. Like, I don't know, we were doing over 10 miles a day for the most part.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, we had a lot of sits of like glassing and looking for sheep, and the breaks for the girls, and it was early mornings, late nights. Like, I remember rolling out of camp at sunup and not coming back till 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And it's not easy. It's not like you're going to hike in there and go in for the morning and come out for the afternoon and hike back in the evening. Like, you could do it, but you're never going to get in there where the sheep are. And you have to move like a sheep, and you gotta get to the top. One of my favorites from last year was when it was so hot. For us from Michigan, you're like out here perfectly fine in a long sleeve, and I'm out here in shorts and a tank top dying. But the girls were hot, and we tucked them into a cave, made sure they had food, made sure they had water, and you and I pushed forward to scout. This is one. All right, I won't say it's my favorite, because my favorite was when we got over to 2. But this was one of the contenders, though, was when we got up, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Listeners aren't going to have any idea, but there was a rock that was almost like a hammock. And we got into that rock, and we like laid there glassing, and it was super cool, because it was hard as shit to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't easy.
Mm-mm.
But once you got to it, there was this little bowl of like, I can't even explain. It was like a hammock of a rock, and we like laid in it and just got to stare at the side of this back side of the mountain and there's sheep all over the place, and there's like the sensory up there, and she's out looking around, and then all of a sudden there's more and there's more, and there's like these lambs coming in with the ewes, and it's just such a cool experience to watch them in their element, but be in their element with them.
Yeah. Being in their spot without them knowing that you're there. And that's a tricky thing to do because these sheep, they see like no other. It's it's hard to get up close and personal with one, and to be able to sneak in within 500-600 yards and just lay there and watch them.
Well, it's funny because previously, like 2 seasons ago, every time you had a client with a sheep down or anything, I got the text on the inReach of like ram down, and you don't ever you don't ever grasp how hard some of these hunters have to hunt to walk out. And for those who think that like coming in for this type of hunt is going to be easy, they're wrong. Like I remember you telling the girls last year, put a wet sock in your mouth and run 10 miles on a treadmill and you might be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And legitimately, that even wasn't even enough of a warning of how hard it is.
Yeah.
And you hear people that are like, man, I didn't realize it was going to be this hard, or give up. And yeah, there's hunts out there that I'm sure cater, especially like once you get into high fence and everything. But if you want like a true backcountry experience, I mean, we're tent camping, no amenities. You don't have a shower, you don't have a toilet. You have a fire and you have a cot to sleep on. And that's, other than that, you're under the stars in this wall tent. And it's just, it's an experience.
It's a unique experience, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and that's where it falls on me. It's I try to make sure coming into it that we've got everything we need. I've fallen short a couple times, forgot plates this trip, but
And a spatula.
and a spatula
And a cutting board.
and a cutting board. Forgot a few things this trip, but
And you almost forgot toilet paper.
I almost forgot toilet paper.
I was to this rescue on that one.
Yeah. But it's just it's easy for somebody to sell an Aoudad hunt. It's not easy for somebody to sell an Aoudad experience.
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel this place has. It's an experience.
Like you can hunt Aoudad with various outfitters and you can have a different experience with each one. But in my opinion, getting out here and doing it in this style, it's almost paying tribute to that animal of like getting in there and working as hard as they move on a daily basis. Like getting up in the mornings and seeing them up on the tops and start to come down, and then the heat of the day they go back up into the shadows. Like you're kind of doing the same thing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to do that in a lodge driving around in a truck. Like you're not going to get that same experience as you would doing it this way. And I think that you appreciate it at a whole new level. So if backcountry mountain hunting is something you want to do, photos don't do it justice. You got to come experience it for real.
Yeah. Well, you run Women of the Wild, and you've had that going since 2021. Let the listeners know kind of like what it is, what your guys' mission is, what you guys are all about, because I think it's important what you're doing, and what you're doing really does matter.
Yeah, so Women of the Wild was started in 2021. I was doing it independently on my own for several years beforehand of just, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in an atmosphere where it was almost taboo for a female to hunt. Like we fished, we grew up fishing, and even that was kind of odd for a girl to love fishing. It was like something they drug out to do with their dad, but it wasn't something they enjoyed. And I have two other sisters who are not outdoorsy at all. So when the opportunity was like, hey, do you want to go shopping with mom or do you want to go fishing with dad? I was up and I was waiting on him. Like if the opportunity was provided, I was gone. I was outside and I was that kid my whole life. But then I got into my late teens and decided I wanted to try hunting, and I did. And it was very hard because it wasn't something that was okay for, like, I couldn't go to deer camp. I wasn't allowed at fish camps, like, because I was a female. And I remember sitting at one of my best friend's birthday parties for his kids, and we were talking. They were boys were talking about salmon camp, and I was like, "Is this the year I get to go?" And they were like, "Nope." And I was like, "Man, screw you guys! I'm gonna start my own." And literally, that's when Women of the Wild evolved into what it is, where I started booking trips for girls, and I realized into like our third trip that there's no education. Like all of these other groups that were taking people out hunting, it was they were taking them out for this hunt, but they weren't getting an experience. They weren't getting the camaraderie. They weren't getting any education, and it was like handing girls a gun and saying, "Go shoot this." Well, they want it, and there's nowhere for them to get it. So that was where our wheels kind of started spinning, and I ran Women of the Wild pretty much independently for the good part of a year and a half. Brought some fantastic team members on, and we really started narrowing in on education. And everything since then, we do online educational courses every single month. This month we actually have three, and we do one every single month. We have like a newsletter where people can subscribe to it. It's like $25 for the entire year, but every single month they get promo codes, they get various discounts, they get all of our educational courses completely free. But then we also utilize that funding to take out veterans, and we do several trips in the year for taking out female veterans and supporting that whole statement of serving those who have served us is a big deal to us. I've never served. I have a long line of family that has, and it's something that we have a deep passion for with Women of the Wild. And then from there, we host a lot, a lot in Michigan. But we also go all over the United States. We go internationally to South Africa. I mean, we've done anything from cooking, trapping, canning, all the way up to Aoudad hunts and taking groups out to South Africa. But we don't just stop with women. We do a lot for youth. So this is our second year teaming up with our Midland Conservation District, USDA, and we hosted over 100 kids last year for a free fishing event, completely free. They got to a ton of them got to leave with 50. I think we had 50 fishing rods that we gave out at that event, and every kid got to leave with tackle. And it's just an education for them, but it's a great way to get the whole family involved. We do family hunts, we do spouse hunts, like we do co-ed. Africa is actually one of our big co-ed events every year, but we've done pheasant events, which you've actually attended.
Mm-hmm.
We've done several like co-ed events, but our main focus is women because they get left on the sidelines a lot. And
sure.
that's we want to stay true to that, but we also want people to know that just because it's Women of the Wild doesn't mean that it's Women of the Wild. Our entire mission is to spread education to anyone that wants it and to make sure that we're preserving our conservation and education for generations to come, because at the end of the day, education is conservation. And with with our heads on the chopping block anymore with all of this, it's so important to make sure that we have people properly educated, so that way the next time something hits a ballot or something, and there's something that needs to be voted on, or even if it's something where there's these public meetings to go to, you can go into it and you can have education and you can have experience to back it up.
Yeah. That's education is very key, not just on a hunting aspect, but a conservation aspect. There's a lot of people that are, I wouldn't necessarily call them antis. They're kind of in the middle, right? They're between us and the antis.
Greenies.
Greenies.
That's what I call them.
They're just not educated.
So I say this term a lot. I call it naive, and I don't mean that in a negative form at all. It is someone who is completely naive to the fact of what hunting actually is. We encounter that a lot, especially with women. And it's not that they're against it, they just don't know. So they are fed off of what you see on social media and what other people's opinions are. So if that's why it's important, like posting about things and talking about it. And it's not just a harvest photo, it's about showing the entire experience as a whole, because it's going to draw someone in and be like, oh, that's kind of neat, can you tell me more about it? And then they're going to start absorbing it. And one thing that I've learned from women is once they get like a taste of the outdoors, they are all in. Like I have girls Actually, Hannah, she's a perfect example. She's like a prodigy. She 3 years ago now came out with me for her very first waterfowl hunt. By the end of that season, her very first waterfowl season, she had done more waterfowl hunting than most do an entire, like in 5 years. She went duck hunting, she went diver duck hunting, she went mallard field, she went goose hunting. She came down to Texas with us and did, I mean, we got a 11-man lady limit of geese
Hmm.
down here in Lubbock, Texas, and then turned around and shot cranes for 2 days right afterwards. So she got like that full on experience. And now, after like mentoring with Women of the Wild for a few years, she's joined our staff. She's been out on so many, she's been out fishing, hunting, and all this other stuff. Now, her main focus and her passion is to share that with other women and share not only what women of like not only share what Women of the Wild offers, but what it can do for you as a person, and how she's been able to really utilize it to benefit herself and forwarding herself and her education, but also being a fantastic outdoors woman who does a lot for conservation. I mean, she's part of DNR. She works for them. She does volunteer work. She actually works for them, and it's a pretty incredible thing. It's kind of like if you were in school, right, as a teacher, to see your students grow up, graduate, and then they go teach.
Hmm.
Like that's basically what I get with her. And we have a great friendship, but we've built it through Women of the Wild and doing things like this and not being afraid. This is a big thing too. Not being afraid to share the education. I feel like that's something that happens often is people are afraid to educate others because then they feel, I'm assuming. I don't feel this way, so my thought process is people are afraid to share the education that they have because they've worked so hard for it and they feel that others need to earn it, and I'm not just going to give it up. Absolutely give it up.
Hmm.
Don't make somebody go through 5-10 years of digging to figure something out to find the wrong way to do it 17 different times before they find the right way. Like if I can advance anyone, male, female, youth, especially youth, in the tools that I've learned, and I'm not some pro, I'm not some expert. I'm a jack of all trades. I kind of dabble in everything, but if I can share my knowledge of what I have learned from doing it wrong so many times for you to do it right and not have to go through all the wrongs, I'm gonna do it.
So then you run Women of the Wild. You run a photography page, the hunting brokerage, shirt company, work a full time job, mom of two boys. I'm forgetting something in there. Oh, you run social media pages for
Guide.
various people. You guide, and I always hear people, "Oh, it must be nice for you to take off and go do this. Must be nice to go do that." And 9 times out of 10, I love your response because it's like we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's what you do with it that matters.
Yeah.
And people don't understand, like, there's people out there that look at you and they're like, "Oh, she's always getting to go do this." You've earned your place in the outdoor industry.
Well, two of my biggest pet peeves, the sayings, are "it must be nice" and "it's because you're a girl."
Hmm.
Like I call bullshit on that because it doesn't matter your your sex. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter. Like what matters is being a good, honest person and people seeing that. But also the "it must be nice." You coined it. I mean that is my biggest phrase that I tell people when I hear the "it must be nice" is, listen, we have the same 24 hours in a day. What's your excuse?
Hmm.
It's not, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that I do this for a living. Um, I don't. I work a full time job in healthcare. I'm a single mom of two boys that are feral at best, and they're avid outdoorsmen. So we enjoy, I mean, I'll work a 10, 12 hour day and then we'll go hit the trap line for, 4, 5, 6 hours in the same day.
Hmm.
So I'm putting in typically an 18-hour day minimum between getting kids to school, working my job, getting kids from school, working whether it's trap line, scouting, like 365 at something. And then you got dinner, get the kids ready for bed, and then, doing our, like, I'm a host of a podcast myself, so then I'm, getting people scheduled for that, or booking trips for the future, updating websites, responding to messages from people with questions. And it's like, I'd be lucky to get like 4 hours of sleep in a day, but I enjoy it,
No.
and that's why I do it. And I think that's where people don't understand is a lot of people want it, but they're not willing to work for it, and they don't realize how much sacrifice. I mean, the sacrifice with your family, the sacrifice that you have just with your mental state. Like, there's definitely times where it's hard, and you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore, and you'll fall into a funk for a day, 2 days, a week, a month, and you just have to know that it's okay to take a mental break and focus on yourself, but then get back in gear and get back at it. Because to me, what companies like Women of the Wild and there's a ton of other groups out there, and I'm also a mentor for the First Hunt Foundation. In groups like that, you're making a difference, and that's my biggest stride, is if I can make a difference while my feet are on this ground, that's what I'm going to do. If I can impact people while I have the capability to do so, then I want to do that.
That's something you always say too. Is like, even if you do all of this and you have a great impact on just one person, then it was all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. People get caught up in social media. I'd delete it all tomorrow if I could. I shouldn't say if I could. I can. I choose not to because of the trust and the value that people find within you of having a social media platform, unfortunately. But you have to stay connected, and you have to build that relationship. Plus, I want to see, I want to see these girls, how they overcome and adapt moving forward. I am probably everyone else's biggest cheerleader. I just love following other people in the outdoors. Doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, it really doesn't matter. I just really enjoy seeing people being successful. It's I never feel jealous. I just get so amped and so excited when I see, somebody got an award for this, or somebody got this incredible harvest. That's amazing. It's just something that I enjoy. And I tell people all the time, like, sometimes I feel selfish for what I do with Women of the Wild, because I get so much personal enjoyment of seeing someone get their first harvest, or to educate someone of that aha moment. I didn't know that. And then them be able to implement it in the future and then be successful. And there are times where I feel that it's almost selfish doing what I do. But you're right. Like, it doesn't, especially when it comes to posting on social media. I don't post for likes, for shares, for whatever. The only reason that my posts go up on social media is because if I can inspire or educate just one more woman to get in the outdoors, it did its purpose.
Changing gears a little bit, you and I met, oh, 2 years ago now? Yeah, 2 years ago. You came and shot an ibex, and we didn't know each other going into it, but it seemed like from that day forward, I don't know, we just hit it off really well. It, we've talked. Shit, I don't think we've gone a single day without talking
Oh,
since
for
that day.
sure.
And
But I'm in Africa, or you're in the mountains.
yeah,
That's about it. But even then, there's an inReach message going out.
yeah, and it's rare to find that friendship in anybody these days, because everybody is so plugged into their phones and plugged into their daily lives, TVs, tablets, video games, all that stuff. It's just refreshing to have like that kind of person in your corner. And it seems to me like you've surrounded yourself with a team of people like that.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to surround themselves with negativity, right?
Right.
So to me, it's important to surround yourself. Actually, it's funny that you brought this up, because there's that saying, and I actually just talked about it on one of my podcasts, with a girl, but it's a TikTok that came out, and I saw it last year, and it was so impactful. And it's the egg, the potato, and the coffee bean. And it talks about how you have this an egg, which is soft, you could break it, and you put it in boiling water. You take a potato, which is hard, and you put it in boiling water. Then you take coffee beans and you put it into water. Well, after you let it boil for a little while, you come back to it and you take that egg out, and it's now that it's this hard boiled egg. And then you take this potato, which was hard, and it's now soft and you can smash it. And basically, what that's saying is that boiling water, its environment, changed it. But then you take those coffee beans and you put those in that water and it changes the water. So by being what that's saying is being that positive impact, it can change your environment. And it's important for people to know that you can choose your environment that you want to surround yourself in. So yeah, I surround myself in successful, happy outdoorsmen and women that really love it, that have a passion, not just good at what they do, not just I don't want to be some friends with some guy that's a jerk that's just really good at his job, right? Or some female that's really negative, but she's really good at social media. I want to surround myself with those people who are impactful, that are willing to share their knowledge, but also share their sacrifices. And I think that that's important. Those raw, honest people that are positive. Um, for people listening that don't know me, I have a very off the wall personality. I'm very quirky, and I enjoy those people a lot. They just make life better. And you and I talked about this. Like, there's when you fall into these funks, and I can like sense it, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, you're just not your normal quirky self, and I like pick up on it. And I'm like that with so many people that like you become such good friends with them that you get this like intuition of like, "Hey, let's talk about it."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we're gonna overcome it. Like, be somebody's cheerleader.
Right. And it's crazy that you say that because we could literally be 2,400 miles apart talking on the phone, not even on FaceTime. You're like, what's going on? It's like, shit, how do you know this?
Sometimes through a text message.
Yeah, a lot of times through text message and stuff like that. And it's cool to surround yourself with people like that. And that's where I think a lot of the hunting industry might be going wrong. We're surrounded by like these negative naysayers, right? You don't necessarily need to be around those kind of people in the hunting world. The guys will, oh, why didn't you let that buck go? Why'd you shoot that buck? Or why'd you shoot a doe? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Get out of here with that shit. Like, what happened to the days where you could pull up to the processor or the deer check station and everybody's like, oh man, awesome buck, great job, good, nice work. We've gotten so wrapped up in this like social media, everything's got to be a 180-inch whitetail, or it's got to be a 37-inch Aoudad, or a 22-inch black buck, or a 35-inch axis and all that. What happened to the days of just being happy and excited for somebody?
Listen, Disney nailed this one on the head when we were kids with Bambi. Thumper's mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I really think that we are in a society anymore of keyboard warriors and people that are willing to just be negative. And I personally think that you're not doing anybody justice by, smashing on some kid because he didn't shoot a big enough buck, or to what your standard is. To me, my motto, which I believe this actually came from Ted Nugent, was if it's a trophy to you, it's a trophy to me. And that is something that I very solidly stand by. And that's also the type of motto personality that I surround myself with, is those same people that have that same mindset of you're just excited for other people. It doesn't matter. Um, I mean, there's definitely like unethical things that obviously we're not going to support, but at the end of the day, if you were doing it legally, you had the right licensing, you're using what you're supposed to be using to do it. At the end of the day, I'm just happy to see you got out there and did it. Like, I don't think people realize the sacrifice that others have, until you've walked, a mile in someone else's shoes. You just don't know. Like, what if they only got out that one or two times that season? What if they really need meat in their freezer? Like, it just should not matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very unfortunate that it does.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's sad because as a hunting community, we're already, like you said, our heads are already on the chopping block. We don't need to destroy ourselves within. We've got enough pressure from the outside world that want to see us fail to begin with.
Absolutely. And now we're starting to see where, there's positions being put in by anti hunters or the uneducated into these boards that are protecting our hunting rights, and that's a scary thought.
Hmm.
It's a really scary thought because there's so many organizations out there and so many people out there that want to shut the hunters down, and you're starting to see it. You're starting to see it in Michigan. You're starting to see it in Colorado, California. Like, there are states being impacted, and you're naive if you think it's not knocking at your back door very soon.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, organizations like Women of the Wild to me were very important to not just be like a bystander and watch it happen. Like, yeah, for sure, I could have joined some other women's group and probably done this, or I could have joined another organization and just helped. But I didn't want to just help. I wanted to, like, really get in there, get these people educated, give them the experience, because at the end of the day, the more hunters and more outdoorsmen and women we have supporting our rights, the better we're going to be when we are in the line of fire.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's no secret that hunting license sales is on the decline. But and you've got a great saying for this, and it does promote more people getting in the outdoors. But you take a man hunting, you've taken a man hunting. You take a woman hunting, she takes the whole family.
Yeah. You take a man hunting, you've taken a man hunting, you take a woman hunting, and you've now brought a community. They're taking their kids, they're taking their spouses, they want to share it with their friends. Like, they get excited about the outdoors in a different manner than men do. And I think that, to me, that's why women were the main focus, and why we will continue to make sure women are the main focus, is because, I've sat down with camo lines and had the conversation of, like, what needs to be adapted for women, and, like, what could be improved on. And we have these conversations in our private women's group of, like, what would you like to see changed, because then I can go to these meetings and I can have these conversations with these different camo lines in hopes to implement change for the better. And it seems like what happens is a lot of times women are left unheard, and I think that's the hardest part. Like, you've all this men's gear that's all, like, super cool shit, that's warm and it's comfortable and it's functional, but then you get into women's stuff and it hasn't been. And in the last few years, they've really, like, really had some great companies come out that are turning that around for women.
Yeah.
They're just few and far between. They're not typically sold in stores. So the way that gets spread is through word of mouth. And that's through, social media, and getting out on these trips of, like, man, I really like those pants they held up during this pheasant hunt. Who makes those? Like, that's how that women's gear gets promoted out. And it's important because women want to be out here, but they haven't always been provided the proper tools to do so. When I started hunting, there wasn't even a women's camo line.
Mm-mm.
I wore youth, and it was awful. The crotch was like mid thigh, the high waist, like, it was so uncomfortable. I couldn't wear men's because for people that don't know me, I'm like 5'1" on a 5'2" on a good day, and I'm like 100 pounds soaking wet. So I can't wear men's clothes, even a small. I couldn't wear youth because it just didn't fit right. And to see these women's lines come out, it's really starting to show that we're being heard, that people are listening, that there is a community being built for us, and it's from women who are willing to stand up and be an advocate for more women getting in the outdoors, and almost forcing the hand of change. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it has to happen. And I have personally heard from other lines out there that, like, oh, we can't do that because of the cost. It blows my mind that I understand it's going to be expensive, but a man, woman, doesn't matter. We'll pay more for gear that works,
Mm-hmm.
that fits. Like, if you like it that much, and there's big names out there that you can stand behind it, you don't, whatever. But if it works, it works.
Right.
And I'm not going to drop, like, brands. I kind of float all over. I'm not solely independent on, like, one brand. I am very dependent upon the brand that is going to suit me best in that situation.
Right.
And to me, with women's lines, we don't have that yet.
Mm-hmm. And that's something like you were talking about with all these women's lines camos. That's a woman that went out hunting one time, wore X brand, and realized, well, I may have the resources to make something that'll work for this next time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it catches on. And then, there's several. Now, obviously, I don't wear women's hunting gear, but from hunting with you over the last 2 years, I've seen the change in women's hunting gear just from knowing you. There's different brands, Prois, Ditali, things like that. And like you said, not all brands fit the bill every time. You and I have had that conversation as well, as where it's like, well, I really like these Badlands pants, but their shirt doesn't do what I need it to do in this situation. And so we'll jump on and look at Kuyu or Sicko or whatever other brand. And yeah, you and we buy a lot of premium brand, what I call premium brand gear, but it's because it lasts and it works.
I mean, if you're somebody and so to back that up for a second, imagine being a female going out for your first duck hunt and you can't find good warm gear.
Mm-hmm.
And you're out there sitting next to your spouse and they are in good warm gear and it's made by the same manufacturer, but you don't have the same insulation. You don't have, the same pants or hoodie or sweater, coat. Sorry, I'm getting clogged
She's
up.
getting smoked out.
But you don't have that same, it's the same company,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the same gear. It's not the same quality. And you have to call your hunt because you're freezing and your spouse is out there still nice and cozy and warm, and it sucks. It sucks to be put in that predicament. It sucks to be put in a situation where you physically just can't go any further because of your gear.
Yeah.
So to me, purchasing gear that is gonna, especially like in my situation, I'm outdoors so much and guiding that it's important for me to have gear that can keep up with me. And it's not often that I find that. So yeah, I wear, since we're going to name drop, I wear a lot of Sitka. I wear a lot of Badlands. I have never had issues with either of them. Like the tip for Sitka, my Hudson bib set, I wear that a lot, a lot, hunting, fishing, and everybody complained about the zippers, and I just use bowstring wax on it, and I've never had an issue with
Right.
any of my zippers.
And that's thinking outside the box.
For sure. Like I've used chapstick in a pinch and stuff like that, but like my Badlands gear, especially in these mountains, like I love it. My Sitka gear in these mountains, I love it. And I wear Ditali, I wear Girls with Guns, I wear Prois, but I wear them all in different situations.
Right.
Like I went into this and I kind of delved into it a little bit with like Prois to me is my absolute favorite so far for upland hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to find a pair of pants that can withstand the fields that I go through. Right. And I've had a pair of Prois pants now for going on 3 years that still hold up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm going to support that brand in that, but I've worn it, in other situations where I didn't care for it as much, like out waterfowl hunting, and it's more of a pattern thing. I'm a big concealment person. I mean, shit, out here in the mountains, we have pictures from last year that you couldn't even tell I was sitting 40 yards from you because I was in my Sitka marsh. And it was that, like you said, thinking outside the box. Most people don't think to wear your
duck gear.
Yeah, your duck gear, out waterfowl hunting gear into the mountains. But what I like to do is I like to look at photos of the terrain that I'm going to be in, mm-hmm. and I like to match it as best as possible, even if it's like deer, right? That's a perfect example. Even if you're deer hunting and camouflage isn't a necessity, no, it's absolutely not. Like at one point in time, people were wearing blue jeans and flannel shirts, and to me, it's a comfort thing. I love concealing myself. So I play a lot off patterns and the patterns that work in my environment. Do you have to? No. Like these women that think you have to go out and buy $1,000 in hunting gear just to go do a hunt like this, you don't. Right. Africa is a big one. I tell people every time when I take a new person to Africa, like, don't go buy hunting gear. Make sure you have real good shoes that you have good and broken in. Don't buy them for the trip. Like, mm-hmm. break them in. But other than that, wear wear earth tones,
Yeah.
which is what you do.
Right.
Wearing earth tones to me, even if you need concealment, is one of the best things that you can do, and you can get more use out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends, and I'm really glad to see within the last couple of years this great stride that camo companies. I mean, you got DSG that made. I was so stoked for this. They made the very first snow camo for women. Like, I've been hunting for almost 20 years, and like I said, I didn't grow up hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and I never had anything like that. And it's so cool to see that now we're finally starting to overcome and adapt, that we're able to now be recognized as hunters, that we take it serious enough that we are going to purchase that gear because we want to get out there.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the women hunting license sales is one of the fastest growing demographics, and I feel it's one of the
Yes,
biggest overlooked demographics.
absolutely.
You know, and it's not just in the aspect of gear or clothing, just in general, you guys get overlooked. And I'm a huge advocate for what you do. Ever since you and I have become friends, and I've always stood behind Women of the Wild. I think it's a program everybody's kids should be involved in. You know, and if a hunting trip's coming up that is co-ed and somebody's listening to this, like, go. You're going to be hard pressed to find another place to go hunt with like-minded people where you get the amount of education.
Well, yeah, because we don't, it's not about the harvest. Safety is number one. Absolutely 100% of the time, safety is number one. The education is number two. So, the very first thing that we're going to do on any event, whether it's an educational course, whether it's coming out on a hunt, we're going to make sure that you're safe. We're going to make sure you know how to use your equipment. We're going to make sure you have the right equipment. Then we're going to dive into education, and we are going to immerse you in not only learning how to do it, but learning how to scout. How, like, perfect example, this month we have a staff member who does a lot of public land. So Megan is actually hosting where she's teaching an online course to learn how to public land hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But not just learn how to public land hunt. Like, we're going to talk about scouting and what to look for, and she's going to go over topographical maps and how to read them, but also dive into draw units and how to do that, when to do it, know what to look for, and habitat. And it's very important to give someone, in my opinion, it's very important to give someone all the tools to be successful, and that's what we are here to do. And if we get a harvest, it's great, but it's a bonus.
Right. Fred Bear, I believe, said it. If you base a hunt solely on the harvest, you've missed the goal completely.
It's my staple on my Facebook, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's and it rings true. It's even out here. It's not about the harvest. And what makes this place so great is you don't have a choice but to unplug. I mean, we're recording this with my computer and microphones and stuff like that, but that's just because we came from one place and came straight here. And but you just don't have a choice but to unplug.
Absolutely. Well, and that's a really great point to all of this too, though. To being out here,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the reasons we came out here,
Yeah.
because you don't have an option to look at your phone. Like, my phone's in airplane mode. I couldn't send or receive a text message if I wanted to.
No.
It forces you, which a lot of us have a hard time, stepping away from our phone, stepping away from a computer. And being out here, it forces you to set it down and just immerse yourself in an experience. And I think that it's different because you can go on a hunting trip where you have cell service and you're still probably going to screw around on your phone.
Mm-hmm. You're
Like,
gonna
at
check
some point in time,
emails.
you're going to be sitting in a deer stand and you're still going to be playing on TikTok and recording videos and doing all that shit. But here, you don't have that option. Out here, it is let it all go, have a conversation. That's what I really enjoy about stuff like this, is you are forced to stay in the company of those who you are with.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate I hate our society of everybody's got to be like your neighbor's so close to you that they could hand you a roll of toilet paper while you're taking a shit, right? Like
Right.
that's a society that I feel like that we're growing more and more into, where you crave this wanting this. You want to be able to step away. You want no amenities. You want to go back to your primal roots of starting a fire to putting up a tent and just getting in there, trips where we do water filtration and trapping. And there's something about that native primal instinct that we all do have. And like you said at the very beginning of this, our species was not designed to sit on a couch, to veg out and watch TV, like
Overeat.
overeat. Our species was designed to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Our species was designed to be physically active and to step away from society because it pushes it out there, right? Yep. Like to get out here and work your tail off, whether it's a successful hunt or not, the fact that you're out here and enjoying the company of who you're with without having to do it through social media, that's a win to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to switch gears and once again switching gears, but you work, you get some pretty cool opportunities with some great brands, right? And we're gonna name drop several of them, and feel free to tell me to take some of them out. I don't care. But we came down here. Both of us are big fans of Sika, big fans of Badland. I've got a buddy that runs a nutrition company out of Midland, Texas, Adventure Well. He supplied us with our meals for this week.
Big fan.
Um, you've got to meet, and it's because of your hard work and your presence in the industry, but you've got to meet and work with some really great companies. You want to hunt with fatty smoked meat sticks, split reed. You've hunted with some great outfitters. Um, you know, hell, we're sitting here with probably one of the coolest coolers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, for those who don't know who goat coolers are, Goat Box, met them at the NWTF this year in Nashville, Tennessee, and really hit it off with them, but really truly enjoyed their product. So I actually flew their cooler down here for this trip and slapped a set of wheels on it just to make transportation at the airport easier. But it's got this dry storage on the sides, which has my medic box. It has all my spices in it. It has our proteins in it. Gosh, I know I'm forgetting some stuff, but it's got this locking compartment for all your dry storage. But then it's got this, yeah, it's pretty awesome, and I can't wait to see what these mountains do to it.
Yeah, and I bring the gear and the products that you brought down up just for the simple fact of they're not give me's. You've paid for all of the gear that we have.
Most of it.
Most of it.
I mean, so, and here's the thing, like, yes, I'm gifted things or sold things at a discounted rate often. Not all the time. Mm-mm. Sometimes I buy stuff full price, just like everybody else. But I look for quality and I look for American made. I look for companies who are out there to support the working man. One of my very good friends, Stump with Arms Custom Calls, somebody that I've met through all of this, and we've grown an incredible friendship. But you can go buy all these duck calls, right? Mm-hmm. And they're just a duck call. Right. And they're hard, especially for women to learn on. And when I first got into duck calling, I always was told, like, you need a double read to be able to learn. And him and I started talking, and full willing to purchase calls at full price. I'm not asking for a handout, but I just want the best quality out there. Little did I know that it's the only quality that should be out there. Those single reads, I have taught so many women to blow a duck call that couldn't do it, that have sat for years trying to learn with their husbands. Mm-hmm. And I can sit with them for 20 minutes and they're actually making a quack by the end of that 20, 30 minutes. And I carry my duck calls with me everywhere now for that purpose. I've taught youth how to duck call, and I'm not some like expert.
Right. You've taught me how to duck call.
But it's I can teach the fundamentals.
Right.
And then you kind of got to learn it from there. But yeah, I've purchased calls, I've purchased gear, I've done a lot of it at full price without. I never ask for discounts. I don't ever ask for handouts. But I am willing to support good quality,
Right.
and that's a big thing too. Is, you might see somebody out there who is pushing product, but doesn't actually truly believe in the product they're pushing, but it's
Or even use it.
right. But it's because it was given to them, whatever. If I'm sent something or I purchase something and I don't like it, I don't share it.
Right.
Because I don't want people to spend their hard-earned money on something. And one of my really good friends, he says this all the time. Just because you can charge it doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Right? So, like, the American hardworking man and woman work so hard for the value of $1. And for people to charge astronomical prices just because they can, or run things as limited editions when they're not, like, it's disheartening to hear that an American working man doesn't respect another working American man just to line his own pockets. And we see that a lot.
Yeah. And the thing with this show is we're not going to name drop the shitbags in the industry, but I've had my fair share of run-ins with a few different people, and I won't give them the time of day. If I order something from you and you tell me, hey, it's going to be there in X amount of days, and it's not, like, I get
Or
it.
the wrong product.
Or the wrong product, or, I get shipping delays happen, and I get, like, orders get mixed up in a deal. But whenever I message you about it and it goes 3 or 4 months without a response, I don't need your product.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, the biggest thing is honest and quality.
Yeah.
I really, like I said, I look for American made. I think that in our time now, more than ever, we need to be supporting American made companies. Otherwise, we're sending money over to
countries that damn near own us.
Yeah, countries that absolutely hate us.
Yeah.
That they want to see us fail. So why would you want to do that? So that's a really big thing for me, is I like to support those American-made companies, but I like to support those honest, hardworking companies that are producing the best quality out there and striving to not only contend with the best, but be the best. Like, if you're not showing up to your job, or you're not showing up to a hunt or whatever it may be, and you're not showing up to give it 110%, why are you showing up at all?
Right.
Like, I always tell people I don't half-ass anything. I give it my whole ass. It ain't much, but I sure the hell try.
Yeah.
And it's important for people, I think, to see that, yeah, you can go out there and give it effort, but if it's not 100%, you're not succeeding. Right. And you're not doing justice to what you deserve. And that links back to we all have the same 24 hours in the day, is because these companies that they cut corners to save money and charge more. People are willing to pay it for good quality product. Like, you don't have to cut the corners. But, like, there's so many companies out there that are amazing companies. Like Boss Shot Shell is one of those companies that,
one of my favorites.
I reeled you into them last season, and
yeah, made a believer.
I'm a really big supporter of Boss, because not only are they to me, the best quality out there, but they're a Michigan-made company. They're in Michigan, and they're good people. They're honest people, and they just genuinely care.
They care about feedback. They want to hear, like, hey, this worked great, or hey, this didn't go right.
And that's a huge thing. Like, it's okay. It's okay, and that's actually how I've built a lot of the friendships that I have. Because all these companies, like Andy with ACC Crappie Sticks, these are all people that, like, I can be honest with them. I can call them and be like, hey, this broke. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to fix this. I respect that, because that tells me that you respect my hard-earned money to replace something. And I'm not saying that ACC's ever broke on me, because they haven't. They've been fantastic. But I'm just saying, for companies out there that are doing good and doing quality product, but keeping the consumer in mind, is so important. And you have so many companies that they don't care about the consumer. All they want is your dollar.
Yeah.
Those are the companies that I have a hard time supporting. If I feel that the only reason I'm purchasing your product is to share it on social media, I'm not going to do that. Like, I want to share it And not because I have to. I won't ever sign contracts either. I will not ever agree to sharing product. I share things because I love them and I want other people to have good quality product in their hands. And when somebody needs a cooler, I can be like, well, I've tried X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to tell you this is why I like this one better.
Mm-hmm. And it's not because you're getting paid. You're not.
I don't get paid a dime.
You don't make anything on. Is there a product that you push for people that you get a commission on?
Mountain Ops.
Mountain Ops. Other than that,
but it's not. And I don't even do that anymore. So I used to do the affiliate with Mountain Ops, and I still utilize the product,
mm-hmm.
and I don't share it as much as I should. I actually got you hooked into it.
Yeah, you did. You got me off my energy drinks and all that crap, and that's other than a can of Dr. Pepper and a Coke occasionally with my bourbon.
So I may not share it on social media, but I share it out on the events, and I talk to people about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped doing the affiliate link, and it wasn't. I don't even know why I stopped. I just did. I don't post about it as much as I probably should, because the whole reason I started Mountain Ops is because I have a lot of health issues, and I had issues, major issues with some of these big name brand energy drink companies, and it got so bad that in my early 20s I was actually hospitalized from it. Mm-hmm. And I started digging, and back a few years ago, actually kind of like when Mountain Ops started to become a thing, I started trying their products, and I was able to subside a lot of those built up health problems that I was having by utilizing that over an energy drink, but still getting the energy without all the shit and chemicals.
And then added on top of that, you're getting way more vitamins and minerals that your body actually needs, as opposed to all the sugars and all the junk like you were talking about.
But I mean, there's not a product by them that I haven't used. Or gear. Their gear is fantastic. Like, I don't know if people realize that Mountain Ops has gear, but they do, and it's awesome. They have and I use some of their workout equipment, like they even just their resistant bands and things like that. Like, I use that stuff in my home all the time. But no, that's the only company that I've ever gotten quote unquote paid for. And I didn't stop doing it because I don't use the product anymore. I definitely still do. That's what we have here for hydration, for vitamins every day, for our energy in the mornings. So for people that want to know like how you can go 2-3 days without sleep, it's Mountain Ops. We down that stuff when we need to. But you're not getting filled with a bunch of chemicals and a bunch of stuff that your body is going to absorb and shut down on you for using.
Right.
It's not poisoning your system, and it's, I don't know. That's the only one that I've ever gotten actual money as far as paid from. But I have companies that I work for that send stuff, but I don't ever keep it for myself. So like ACC, huge shout out to them because they have great quality fishing rods. Mm-hmm. And they have been one of our biggest sponsors and donators to Women of the Wild since we started. And they're still holding strong with us, and we fully support them. And we don't post about it on social media, but we do a lot of give back through them. So we were able to donate out that fishing event that we talked about previously, where we took over 100 kids, 50 fishing rods.
Yeah.
With reels.
Quality fishing rods.
Quality was donated out to 50 kids.
And I don't know our listeners, if you're fishermen or, fishing women, call Zebco and ask them if they'll donate you 50 rods for a kids event.
The crazy part is we didn't even ask.
Right. He just sent them out of the goodness of his heart because Andy's good people. And
the other thing that I like to do, we've partnered up and donated rods to high school fishing teams, to veteran organizations. Like, it doesn't just limit to our youth. Like, they've donated out to us when we host fishing events, like their ice fishing rods. We were going to host an ice fishing event, and he got wind of it and just messaged me and was like, call me, we need to talk about this. And these companies that are willing to support women, children, veterans, like, that is where it's at for me. You tug at a heartstring good and hard, and I will help you any way I possibly can. Um, but yeah, I mean, big supporters. Atlantic Coral Enterprise.
Yeah.
Paul's been a really big supporter of us since we started, and he's still with us as a sponsor. He comes back every year, and we're so thankful for him because he just supports women in the outdoors. And I think that a lot of these men, because there's always this like, it's like a stigma, and it's often unspoken, but there's this stigma with women have been put in an experience where they've been done wrong by a man.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was, I don't know, maybe they shot a shotgun that kicked too hard, but they were told it wouldn't kick, or
Right.
threw a 3.5 in that 12 gauge
Because they thought it was funny.
because they thought it was funny. So they've been burned, and there's trust there. So sometimes women have a hard time realizing that there are good, honest men out there that aren't trying to be a creep, that they do just want to support what you're doing. And we have so many men that support us. I mean, you've been a supporter of us for 2 years now. We have those companies, several others, Josh Farr Children's Books,
Mm-hmm.
Feather Moon Outdoors. Both Josh and Charlie have supported us since day one, and they continue to do so. But again, American made, good quality product like Feather Moon turkey calls.
Some of the best in the business.
He's the only diaphragm call that lights out.
Yeah.
I've used that same exact diaphragm call for 3 years now, and I wouldn't dare use a different one.
Mm-mm.
Every turkey that I've killed in the last 3 years, and every turkey that has been killed by one of my clients or my kids, is off that same diaphragm. Well, not that same one. Obviously, I've had to replace it, but
right.
that model, or not model, I don't know what you want to call it, but that call to me has been my saving grace, and I have backups in my turkey vest at all times. Josh Farr with his children's books, they're outdoors related books. That's not in schools anymore. That's
No.
not something that's taught. I know that there's still schools out there that have archery programs or shooting programs. We don't have that. So kids are not exposed to the outdoors at a young age.
Mm-mm.
And with his books, that's what he does. He exposes children at a young age about a first hunt. Your hunting alphabet, your ABCs, like, and not just reading. Like, he has writing books
Mm-hmm.
to teach kids how to learn how to write, and it's just a spectacular thing to support those who not only are American owned, but are good, honest people that are looking to better our outdoor community as a whole,
Right.
whether it's by good product, whether it's by education. It's just important to support that, and that's what I do. And I don't link myself up with a company unless they have all of those boxes checked.
Yeah. And that's another. I've always been a huge advocate, not even advocate, just a big fan of Havalon since I was tipped my first one, and I still have it. It's actually in my pocket right now. 3 years ago, a client left it to me as a tip. Havalon's always been like that knife for me. But you've recently picked up a new friendship with another knife maker, Montana Knife Company.
Yeah.
That is one. We use that to kind of cut up and prepare dinner tonight. Holy smokes. I've never been a fixed blade fan, but that knife could change the game for me.
So, and I have the paracord handle too. So I have the Speed Goat, and met them. It's not the knife makers that I got to meet or anything like that. It's some of their staff. But we were talking, and we were at one of the shows, and I was like, it's a knife that I followed since it came out, and I'd never put one in my hand. And I bought one, and there's knives out there that I use for various things. I love Havalon. I love Weeby knives. That's like, Weeby's one of our big supporters with Women of the Wild, and I do love their knives. But for this particular situation with that fixed blade, and I've always been like a hard handle kind of person.
Mhm.
I did the paracord handle this time, and I thought I would hate it, and I actually love it. And it's something that is on my belt. If I'm in the mountains, it's on my pack. I have really grown to love that knife. And the second you picked it up this evening to help cut up some stuff for dinner, you were like, oh shit. Like, it cuts everything.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it too is if your knife dulls for any reason, you can send it back to them, and they want to support guides. They want to support the avid outdoorsman. So you can literally pack up your knife, send it to them on a Monday, and you are damn near going to have it back by that same Friday, if not sooner. Like, they will sharpen it and send it priority right back to you. And I really respect that, because there's not a lot of companies that are willing to not only stand behind their product, but stand behind you as a consumer. And it's awesome quality. I got turned on to them on a women's hunt where one of the girls, she had a Montana knife, and she cut a pig's head off. And for those who have never tried to cut a pig's head off or skin a pig, it cut through that pig, and I mean like a monster hog. It cut through that hog's head like it was hot butter.
Yeah.
And it was so impressive to me that I was like, I have to own one of these knives. Yeah. I just have to try it. And I did, and now I can't put it down.
Right. And I think that's why you and I buy a lot of gear that we do. And my intention for this episode, surprisingly enough, was not to be a gear tech episode, but here it is.
Actually, I think when we first talked about this episode, it was supposed to be about turkeys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that's why we support the companies that we do. Badlands, unlimited lifetime warranty. Doesn't matter what you do to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, I could take Badlands, if you're listening, I apologize for throwing this out there, but I could take this jacket, trip over a rock, land in the fire, package it up, send it back to Badlands, call them and say, hey, burnt my jacket. They'll send you a new one.
Yeah, they want you to use their gear.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even tell you some of the little phrases that they have on their tags. But basically, they want you to use it and abuse it.
Mm-hmm. And this is the proving grounds.
Yes. And if you have used it and abused it and it fails on you for any reason, you send it back. Mm-hmm. They send you a new one. It has to be in the same size, so it can't be like, oh, well, I gained 40 pounds, I need to size up. Like, you can't do that. But if you're out here and you rip your pants or you bust a seam or whatever it may be, it's getting replaced. Yep. And Sitka does the same. Sitka's really good with that.
Well, and that's why we both run Vortex too.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Vortex, because, and it's really odd, right? Like, it's almost like Hoyt and Matthews, this like battle. Mm-hmm. Where Vortex, you either hate them or you love them, and I have to say Vortex, to me, no one contends with them.
No, it's the best bang for your buck. You can go spend $3,000 on a pair of Zeiss, or you can go spend $350 on a pair of Vortex, and you're getting the same quality.
You're getting great quality.
With better warranty.
With a fantastic, and just the customer service. Yeah. Like, and that's a big thing, too, with these companies you buy from. Dig into their customer service. Call them one day. Mm-hmm. See how quick you get through to somebody.
Tacticam reveals. They're cell cams.
Tacticam is another big one. Tacticam is a great company. I used to use like these knockoff Amazon trail cams with little tiny SD cards. And I bought Tacticam Reveal one year. And I loved it so much. But here's where my turning point was. I had an issue on the third one that we put out. And it was something to do with the app. It wasn't even the camera's fault. And they were like, boom, on it. Fixed it within a few minutes. No questions asked. I mean, just the customer service alone is, you have my vote and support.
Absolutely, because, and this isn't being any type of way, but you call a lot of these companies and you don't get an American-based customer service.
Oh, that drives me nuts. With anything.
Right.
I work in healthcare, and that drives me absolutely crazy. That I won't even dive into that.
No, we'll leave that one alone. Listeners, if you know what we're talking about, you know. But it's important to me, especially so with Vortex, with Badlands, with all these brands that I use and carry and every day. If I call you with an issue, and I understand a lot of the issues are self-inflicted, right? Like, last year I dropped my spotting scope off the side of one of these mountains. I called Vortex and I had a new spotting scope the next day.
Yeah, before you even had to send your old one in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just to know that,
Shit, my binos.
yeah, your binoculars are the same way. Just to know that as a guide, as an outfitter, that you have that support from some top tier brands. You go, you call one of these other brands, and it's basically like, sorry about your luck. Go spend another $40 or $50 on our pants because you popped your inseam. That's your fault, not ours. That's not due to our quality. That's just due to your abuse. I don't need a company like that. I need a company that I know they have my support, but not only that, they support me as well.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you're spending your hard-earned money on a product in hopes that it works for you, and when it fails you, especially in the field, that's a hard pill to swallow. It, to me, I think it's a real hard pill to swallow. Of like, well, I bought this gear, I paid this for it, it failed me, and you're not even willing to support the failure on your gear's end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Miss Felicia, I think it's time for us to crawl at our tents and call it a day.
Yes, sir.
We've got an early morning and a hellacious of a hike planned for tomorrow. We're gonna put some miles on the Lamborghinis tomorrow. But tell everybody where they can find not only you but your podcast, Women of the Wild, and all the other everything else.
Oh man, this is like another half hour of your episode. Um, I would say the biggest, easiest place to link up is Felicia Marie on really any social media platform. Once you get to that, everything else is listed. Women of the Wild. Women of the Wild is on Facebook, Instagram, podcasts. You name it, it's out there. TikTok, Snapchat, everything. But aside from that, MS.Guided is my guide service. If anyone is interested in turkey hunts, waterfowl hunts, if you want big game experience or really any hunting outdoors experience, Mitex Broker, it's my broker agency. Um, and then from there, I mean, we listed it earlier. Dripping Wet T-shirt company, laser engraving. Um, yeah, it's all on there. I don't know where to even start with it all, but it's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode because it's not so much as a business episode as much as it is just two friends hanging out in the mountains and shooting the proverbial shit. Hopefully, we're not shooting shit tomorrow. But
I hope we're shooting something tomorrow.
oh, we're shooting animals, but we're not shooting shit.
Oh,
Um,
that could get messy.
that could get very messy. I like to close these episodes out. Same thing with your podcast, where you close them out with a piece of advice or a piece of education. What's yours?
My piece of education.
Or advice or tips, tricks?
My biggest advice is go do it. Say yes. If you have a want to do something, there's enough resources out there for you to do it. Doesn't matter if it's a hunt that you never thought you could do in a million years, if it's a bucket list, say yes. Don't be afraid and don't get caught up in what you think you can't do, because you can do anything that you're willing to put your mind to. And I just encourage anyone that listens, whether you're a man, a woman, to get involved with groups like First Hunt Foundation, with Women of the Wild. It's so important to have support um, out there in the outdoors, and the education being adapted to how your learning styles are to put you up for success. And the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is pull yourself out of your hole, get out of the I can't do it or I'm scared, and just try it.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that you never know if you like it till you try it. And I think that when it comes to the outdoors, like there's not anything that I'm not willing to try to do to see if I like it. And for the most part, there's not a lot of hunting. Like there's styles of hunting that I've found that I'm not a big fan of. Like I hate sitting in a blind.
Mm-hmm.
I am a spot and stalk person, 100%. I'm a go mobile person, but I wouldn't have known that had I not done it.
Right.
So you got to do it. You got to try it. Whether it's bow fishing, whether it's big game, whether it's waterfowl, just get out and do it. We weren't meant to sit on a couch.
Mm-hmm. It's I appreciate you not only being on the episode, but I appreciate you coming down and hanging out.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me out here. Our friendship means a lot to me. And I'm excited to have yet another year under our belt out doing this shit together.
Yeah, it's we did it last year and didn't hate each other, and I don't think we're gonna have that issue this year either. Well, guys, that's the end of this episode, and just get out there and grind it out.